top-selling jersey this offseason, gentlemen, and now fantasy owners are all buying the hype, too. The expectations couldn't be much higher for Elliott, whose average draft position currently sits at 6th. So since 2001, 4 of the 37 running backs selected in the first round finished in the top 10 in fantasy as a rookie. Max, is Elliott ranked too high?
When you have him not as the first overall running back, no, but I've seen many boards where he's the first overall running back in fantasy. That's too high. Ezekiel Elliott is big time. And I say that because even with all these expectations, when you have to bet on someone to live up to the pressure, forget about the fact that he's running behind one of the best offensive lines in the game, at least on paper, and the way they've played the last couple of years. Des Bryant, healthy, will stretch the field. If Romo, every time Romo's on the field, it's going to help. Maybe they came up with something in Dak Prescott if Romo's not available. Jason Witten's still reliable, veteran. All that is going to help Ezekiel Elliott. But putting all that aside, he's a big-time player. First ever BCS playoff format, and he's, pardon the pun, carrying his team. I mean, he's coming up big with the money on the line time after time in that playoff run. So he's big time. I get it. I expect him to perform. I do not expect him to be the best overall running back, not with Todd Gurley out there. And by the way, as good as Ezekiel Elliott was in college, the sense was not that he was Todd Gurley. I mean, you know, the sense was Nick Chubb might have been better than Ezekiel Elliott at a time, or, you know, that level, and Gurley was a cut above, and Gurley's going to have a huge role in his offense. Le'Veon Bell, when he's on the field, is probably going to be the best overall when he's on the field, but that's after week 4, should he stay healthy. Adrian Peterson's still getting it done. So for those who would have him the first overall running back taken, it's a little bit high, especially nowadays in fantasy with the way the stretch vertical yards go.
The year of the wide receiver.
Wide receivers are going higher.
I still don't understand where the hell you're going. Where's Ezekiel Elliott? First, second, third? Where?
I would say Ezekiel Elliott is the 3rd running back on my draft board, but once Le'Veon Bell comes back, he's 4th.
Well, first of all, far be it for me, I'm not going to try to come across some fantasy football expert. Quite frankly, all of these years, I'm wondering what the hell everybody was so enamored with. But nevertheless, it's big time. Welcome to the fantasy club. I'll join, no problem. I don't have Ezekiel Elliott number 3. I'm here to tell you that right now. And I'll tell you why I don't have Ezekiel Elliott number 3. I'll tell you why it's damn near blasphemous why you have him at number 3, Max Kellerman. You know, despite your boxing expertise, you actually know some football, bro. I really, really don't understand how you forget certain nuggets of information considering the brilliance of you, how you articulate and elocute yourself, how you know so many different things. What number is the key number there? 1 and 11. Familiar with that number? You're familiar with 1 and 11? What's 1 and 11, Max Kellerman?
Without Romo.
That was the record without Romo, okay? So we had a Darren McFadden rushing for 1,000 yards, averaging 4.6 yards a carry. Before Joseph Randle decided to rob a department store for cologne and a pair of drawers, he was averaging more than 4 yards a carry himself. It's just the truth. I'm just here to be truthful, okay? Before Joseph Randle was doing that, he started 6 games. Darren McFadden started the last 10, played in all 16 games, averaged 4.6 yards a carry, gave Dallas the number 9 rushing attack in all of football. He had over 1,000 yards, but they were 1 and 11 without Romo. So in other words, what I'm saying to you is that what are you going to do if you're an opponent of the Dallas Cowboys? You're going to hurt Romo, and I'm not wishing that for him. I swear to you, I'm not wishing that on him. But his history tells me to expect him to get hurt because he's going to get hit, he's going to fall, he's going to land wrong, whether it's on the collarbone, the rib, whatever. And as a result, maybe Dak Prescott is going to get an opportunity to prove that he belongs. So you got a rookie quarterback with a rookie running back. You got people with the offensive line, and whether it's Doug Free, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, whomever, what you're going to do is know that Dallas Cowboys offensive line is formidable. You're going to stack the box, stack the line of scrimmage, and dare the rookie quarterback to beat you, or dare Tony Romo to remain durable enough to beat you. Ezekiel Elliott ain't going to get the ball nearly as much. Therefore, excuse me, all of this stuff about him. And by the way, while we're sitting there talking about Ezekiel Elliott, let's be clear about something here. I like the kid. He can play. He really, really can play. I didn't think it was wise for him to get at Urban Meyer the way that he did when they lost to Michigan, but he was right. It's just that, you know, that's Urban Meyer. You got to watch your mouth just a little bit there. But then the next week he got the ball against Michigan instead of Michigan State, and you saw what he did against them. But even though I wouldn't call him this, Ezekiel Elliott is a big boy who's not the most elusive dude in the world. And yards after the catch, after contact, very impressive on the collegiate level. But we used to say the same thing to a lesser degree about Trent Richardson out of Alabama.
Oh, don't compare him to Trent.
I'm not comparing him to that.
Listen, you know you messed up, right?
I'm saying this is the NFL.
In the words of
this is the NFL.
In the words of the cops in Medicine Society, you know you messed up, right?
Whatever.
You know you messed up.
I'm waiting.
Because you just said without Romo they were 1-11, right? And how many yards did McFadden have per carry?
1,000.
And it was 4.6 yards a carry. Yes. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So if McFadden's getting 4.6 yards a carry behind that line without Romo negating their stretch threat, right?
Who's to say Ezekiel Elliott's going to be better than McFadden?
You don't know that
world?
Everyone in the world
I need to see to believe.
We got to go to break.
I haven't seen him play in the NFL yet. Can we pump the brakes just a little bit?
A little bit.
When we come back, Cam Newton had the most fantasy points of any player last season, but is there another quarterback who will take that reign this year? We'll debate when First Take in the Fantasy Football Marathon presented by DraftKings continues. That's next.
I'll tell you what, I love Jared Goff, man. He did a tremendous job in college. He's going to do a tremendous job in the NFL. But he didn't know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That blew my mind, man.
So I shouldn't take him?
Not if you want to know where the sun comes up and goes down, man.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome back. We'll get you to First Take momentarily. Right now, though, we continue the Fantasy Football Marathon presented by DraftKings. Over 1 million teams already drafted. We're making our way to 1.5 million. We're in hour 16, going all the way to 11 o'clock tonight. 28 straight hours. I'm Wendy Nix with Todd McShay. Everybody likes to talk quarterbacks in this league for good reason. We're going to talk particularly the rookie quarterbacks. And let's start at the top of the draft with what you've seen so far from presumed starter Jared Goff.
Well, Jared Goff has done well in practices from everyone I've talked to, but the game, when you go back and look, a lot of primary targets, when they were first open, he was able to get the ball out and make the throws. This is the one throw, even though it's an incompletion on a drop, where he had to anticipate and go through his progressions. You're going to see throw into a spot in the middle of the field. Those are the throws that got everyone excited, including myself, about Goff coming out of Cal. And in that game, again, a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of his production and how he played in that game, but first start, and he's a rookie, and he's a guy that does not right now show that he's quickly going through the progressions, but I know that he's capable of it and looking for a lot of improvement over the next few preseason games.
He says the game is starting to slow down, but you and I both know that's a process. The same can be said for Carson Wentz, who came from an entirely different collegiate system. Nevertheless, he's ready to take the next step.
And a completely different situation. Goff was a 3-year starter. Wentz, 23 starts only from the FCS level. But I was really impressed with what I saw before he got that hairline fracture and the rib injury. You see the movement, feeling the pressure coming, climbing the pocket, and making good throws on the run. And then this is the other element of his game. He's going to have to kind of monitor it, how much he's willing to run. They use some zone reads, but you see there at the end, sliding after extending a broken play. So that's what Wentz brings to the table that Goff doesn't necessarily. But again, Wentz now set back a couple of weeks because of the injury. I think we all expect Sam Bradford's going to be the starter there, but when do we see Wentz in a starting role? Is it at some point this season, or is it as a sophomore, if you will, in 2017?
And I think it's likely that time, that waiting, will serve him well eventually.
I agree.
There is a new weapon in Philadelphia, regardless of the starting quarterback. There's been a trade. Dorial Green-Beckham traded to the Eagles. He had 32 catches last season. In return, the Titans get an O-lineman. If Beckham had been on the Eagles, he would have finished with the second most receptions tied by an Eagles wide receiver.
I think this is a great trade for both sides, but especially for the Eagles. They've got Nelson Aguilar, Josh Huff, Ruben Randall. They don't have this big physical receiver who can go up and win the 50-50 ball. You talk about this year, but even moving forward 2-3 years down the line with Carson Wentz, it's a really nice addition for a young quarterback to have a young, big physical wideout.
Our fantasy football marathon presented by DraftKings continues all day until 11 o'clock tonight. Right now, though, we send you back to First Take.
Wendy, Todd, thank you kindly for the perspective there on the rookie quarterbacks. We're going to take our own look now at quarterbacks this year, and we begin with last year's points champ. We all know who that is. One, Cam Newton was the most owned player on championship rosters last season. He put up the most fantasy points of any player last season as he won NFL MVP. However, before you start highlighting your draft cheat sheets, history not on his side. Every quarterback with at least 10 rush TDs in a season since the AFL-NFL merger lost at least 6 rush TDs from that total the following season. But look who's here, the talented Mr. Roto, Matthew Berry, in the house. Now to give us his fantasy expertise, we need you here, Matthew. Who do you think is going to be the best fantasy quarterback this season?
Hi, Molly. Yep, just popping in for a quick second to tell you it's Cam Newton. #1 fantasy quarterback last year, will be the #1 quarterback this year. He's my #1 ranked guy. Look, you talk about the regression of the touchdowns, and sure, but he's had at least 5 rushing touchdowns every season he's been in the NFL. Those are designed runs around the goal line. Last 5 years, Cam Newton, top 3 in the NFL among quarterbacks in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. Even if it comes down from 10, he'll still be 5 or 6. Not worried about that. That high floor because of his rushing is what's kept him as a high fantasy quarterback. But what happened last year is totally different. His average depth of target, which is how far down the field he's throwing, second in the NFL, only to Carson Palmer. He was really slinging it, and now this year he gets Kelvin Benjamin back. Remember the 35 touchdown passes last year. He is a true dual threat. To me, no stopping Cam Newton. He's my #1.